This week we read Run, Run, Rabbit by CM Nascosta. When Vanessa attends an exclusive Lupercalia celebration just outside of Cambric Creek, she knows exactly what to expect. She's been to these parties before, after all. The whole town knows what goes on at the invitation-only werewolf soirees, and every last one of them is eager for an invite. The Lupercalia festivities are an ancient rite of fertility and carnality, of sex and sweat and celebration, and she knows one of the werewolves will have her before the night is done. One of them will have her, but only one wolf will do. The one she's been leading in chase for years. One wolf, one knot, one set of teeth at her back. But he'll have to catch her first. Run, Run, Rabbit is part of the Cambric Creek Afterdarkverse.
The content advisories for this book include primal play, chase play, public sex, nodding, non-monogamous relationship, shifted sex, inappropriate workplace romance, pregnancy, termination, is he an alpha hole or just an asshole, and a decently toxic relationship. So buckle up. This is the final special episode of April.
So I want to preface for you, because in case you were going to ask, I've read.
What was I going to ask?
So in this world, in CM Nascosta's world, only because I read her other wolf book before, the way that she does the whole moon thing and the nodding thing is that when the full moon comes, all werewolf shifters have this like intense need for like fornication, whatever. And
Fornication.
I just made up my own word. Fornication.
You're a mess today.
Yeah, really bad. That they crave that completion. It's like a forced heat almost. So that is why they nod each other during that time.
Honestly, I didn't have a single note about the nodding.
That's
And
okay.
I'm going to say this right now. My notes are all over the place.
This book was all over the place.
And that's exactly why.
It's funny because I read her Cambric Creek series. I read all 3 books in it.
And they weren't all over the place. Like, it's weird because I've read a couple of them too, and I liked
So they
them.
weren't like this.
No.
We read Morning Glory Milking Farm last year. And my complaint for that book was the style in which the point of view was written, that like singular third person point of view, because she doesn't even really use names. It's just she, and names are very infrequent. And that was what bugged me the most about Morning Glory Milking Farm. And then this one, it was just like that one again, it was so irritating because it was written in that same way. I mean, the writing style is not 100% for me, but I like the world that she has built, that Cambric Creek world. But the Mothman book and her breeding clinic, the one that actually the characters from this book are featured in, which I didn't realize this one came first. I just read the whole Cambric Creek series. They had a sense of direction.
Yeah. Because so
I've tried a lot of her books. I think just the writing style is not
it's just
100%
not
for me.
Yeah. I mean,
I really like the world though. That's the thing. I really like the world. And
it's
I'm
hard
interested in the story.
Yeah, it's hard. So, as a warning ahead of time, this is going to feel really disjointed, and I apologize in advance. I did my best. I will be honest, I struggled so hard.
In my head, you said you were going to read it on Saturday. So I'm like, oh, she must have already read it. So it's fine. It's just a me problem.
No.
Because I read it yesterday. So in my head, like you had read it the day before. So I like, oh, she must have got through it. It's my problem. I'm the one having a problem.
No, it's not you. So just know this might go really bad. And it's not a great intro to basically the next month of me doing these books.
We're still in April, though. We're still in April.
This is our last special of April.
But just keep that in your head. We're still in April.
Yes, the author highly recommends reading the Moon-Blooded Breeding Clinic adjacent to this book, This book takes place in the Cambric Creek Afterdarkverse, which means it's not as much sugary sweetness and a lot more spice than the normal Cambric Creek verse, which I do agree. Because going from Morning Glory Milking Farm to the amount of fucking that was in this book, there was a lot more. The Morning Glory Milking Farm did not have as much. And then if you remembered,
this one was kind of weird and disjointed, but
I'm aware. Yeah, so that was more of a sweet book, Morning Glory Milking Farm versus this one.
For this end of April special, we are reading Run, Run, Rabbit by CM Nascosta.
And we read it. We're not reading it currently while we're recording, but we already read it. So this book opens up with a party, and we have Vanessa as our female main character. How do we know this? Her name is in there at some point.
Somewhere, maybe.
It's in there.
Maybe, but the author uses she a lot. I hate this point of view. I know I complained a lot about that in Morning Glory Milking Farm, so I'm just going to say it now and shut up about it. But
you complain about it every single time that we have one.
No, this is I'm pretty sure this is the only author we've read that it's this limited
Vanessa
point of view.
This book is written in third person, so if that's not your thing, you have been warned ahead of time.
Not only that, but it's limited third person.
Don't know what that means? It is what it is. Just written a lot with she and is a lot she. So Vanessa is running late. Work has been super busy and somehow typically always knows she has plans, whatever. So she's speeding down the highway between Cambric Creek and Starling Heights. And this highway is typically pretty empty, so she's able to kind of speed along without any issues. She just knows whatever she's late for, that he will understand. Who is he? No idea yet. Sounds great. And if he notices, she thinks back to when he was late to a dinner during the previous month. We do not get the he for a little bit, so just know he's just referred to as he a lot. But you know what? He was a dick. He stays a dick for most of this book.
That's all she cares.
That he's a very unlikable character.
Like literally.
So bad. So why is he a dick? Well, because he hadn't planned on apologizing when he was late to their dinner previous month, but the way that he said it was really fucking rude, basically, to her. So back to her driving. Because it kind of it's so weird because it goes from there's no breaks to show when it's a different thing to
the past and present and the ins
are
and the
really
outs.
Mixed together a lot. So again, if this sounds disjointed, I apologize. That's just that. So back to her driving. So she's slowly approaching where she needs to be. It's this house, and it's on a very nice country estate that was owned by some of Cambric Creek elites, and it's a very private area. But as she's pulling up, the valet is about 10 cars deep. So fuck, she's already late. And this is going to make her even more late. So she decides that she's just going to park down the road and walk up the hill. We learn that everyone here is for the Lupercalia celebration. And it's going to be a primal as fuck night. And so she makes it up this house. And champagne is already fucking flowing. And food is being brought around. And black masks are being passed around for those who didn't bring their own. And Vanessa kind of makes her way through little gossip circles, and she learns that Jackson Hemming is running for mayor, and there will be some changes happening. Vanessa doesn't know how he will be elected in Bridgeton because he's a wolf. They weren't really talking about Bridgeton, but that's okay. She just assumed, but it's also because there's a huge human population in Bridgeton. She honestly does not care much for politics, so she just kind of likes to stir shit up because she's a shit stirrer. I mean, am I wrong? She definitely is a shit stirrer. So she slowly makes her way into the interior ballroom where there is servers and an altar space, and this altar space is going to be used obviously later on for the whole thing. There's music playing, and then I said, and this honestly is Ariel's nightmare, because there's too many humans everywhere and the music's probably going to be too loud, and this is just an awful
and they're going to have to run.
Yeah.
This is just not fun.
Not for you. And she's just thinking about how the night is going to progress.
It's a no from me.
Yeah. So she's thinking about how this night is going to progress and how the music's going to get progressively louder and change, and then there's just going to be cocks everywhere. For now though, it's super chill. And then she spots him, the host for the evening, and he is tall and broad with wide shoulders, and she calls him the definition of tall, dark, and handsome. He is one of the Hemmings, and he has one of his brothers behind him. The men are in kind of like a heated discussion. And Vanessa overhears a lady talking about how the wolves are coming back into power. Vanessa just literally can't believe that people would drive all this way to just fucking talk about politics, which honestly, fair. Like, no, thank
She's
you.
there to get dick.
Right?
She don't have time for politics.
Exactly. Like, it feels like it's going to be a sex party, and who wants to talk about politics when you're about to get fucked? Though the government fucks us enough, so I guess there's that. We can just like throw it in the mix here. Vanessa does realize that she doesn't really belong in this crowd, but she's able to kind of like disappear amongst them, like flitting around, and everyone has whispered and speculated over these werewolf orgies, but no one will actually ever cop to going to one. Because, I mean, who wants to openly admit, hey, I go to werewolf orgies every month? Like,
I mean, I probably would if that was a thing.
well, okay,
I'd
yeah,
probably
but
be like, guess what I do in my spare time?
but I feel like with these upper crust people, they
Yeah.
don't want to put that out there. So, but yeah, so Vanessa makes a comment about the fact that she's not there for political conversation, and a man comes up and agrees, and the wolf within her is reacting to this man. Also, he's hot. So he's got blonde hair and tan skin and bright blue eyes. And we learn that as it gets closer to the full moon, she starts to basically just get super horny. So this bitch runs her nails down the front of him and grabs his cock over his pants and says, I wonder how much he wants to come out and play. Girl, okay. He asks how fast she is. And she just responds with, the chase is half the fun. And then she puts her empty shampoo.
This is a different kind of party now.
Champagne flute. Oh my God. On a tray and moves away from the group. And she grabs another full glass of champagne. And she gets drawn in by a man against a far wall. This man's opening line is, I could smell your cunt from across the room. So yeah. So she grabs his dick.
I mean, they are werewolves.
They are, yes. So she just grabs his dick, and this man just wants her to choke on it and wants her to get on her knees and, be begging to get fucked. And he wants her to also beg for his knot. She could care less. None of these men's knots could satisfy her. And she just says that he'll have to catch her first, and she releases him and walks away. And then the atmosphere in this room shifts, which means the ceremony is about to begin. When a man comes up behind her, all these men just approaching her, which is so wild to me.
She's popular.
I guess so. She just smells needy, I guess.
She is.
Yeah. And so this man comes up behind her and he says he wasn't sure that she was coming tonight. And she flinches at his voice. And he asks her, are you ready to run, Rabbit? Found a cock you like the shape of yet? Picked which one you want to ride? Which knot you want filling you, or are you going to let us all take a turn? And then she taunts him a little bit, saying that if he's too slow, he doesn't get to play. And he tells her, if that's what you want, run, Rabbit. Let's see how fast you can move. And releases her and walks away. And then we go to 6 years earlier. So that was present day. And now we're basically going to go from 6 years, and we're going to go every single year until we get back to present day. We learn from 6 years ago that she's been trying to make Grayson Hemming chase her since they first met. He is an arrogant prick. Man, is she super fucking attracted to him. Isn't that how a lot of this goes?
Well, he's a partner at her new job, at the new law firm that she's working.
He basically insults her as a public defender during her interview with him.
Because she used to be a public defender.
Right, yeah. So she used to be a public defender, and he insults her during her interview, by the way. And she is literally sitting there defending herself and her work experience. She really wants to work for this law firm and knows that his reputation brought in a lot of really large clients, but also his family name. So the Hemmings are a big name. So he's kind of super important. And she regrets a lot of things about the interview, like, I don't know, not keeping her fucking mouth shut. Also, not leaving to find a different law firm, but her pride just won't let her walk.
And she likes the smell of him.
Well, duh, he's hot.
Her inner wolf just feels pulled to his inner wolf, which is a shame because he's a fucking asshole.
Yep, he is. And then so we fast forward a year. So next chapter, it's 5 years. So she gets asked by him if she's planning on anything with the holiday. She doesn't really celebrate it, which is the Lupercalia, basically. And he is kind of a dick about her not celebrating it, saying, like, oh, so much for track records and defendants and all that bluster about community, because it's a big community event within the wolf thing.
And the firm that they're working at primarily supports and defends werewolves in their community, where humans tend to have the upper hand. And he's like, how can you even kind of fight for the community if you don't have a place in the community? Because this event is like the cornerstone of their sense of being, and it's
Yeah.
huge within their community.
He's just a dick. But then he
Yeah.
follows up with like a small kind of backhanded compliment saying that she wasn't terrible. Dude,
At
he,
her job that day.
yeah. He never really paid much attention to her until one day he locks eyes with her in the middle of a corridor and just like peruses her body. And that super turns her on, by the way. After that, she always felt his eyes on her all the time. But even if her body enjoyed that attention, he was still a dick and a fuckboy. Because he is. He's a super fuckboy, by the way. The smell of his wolf, though, gets to her, and all she could think about is what would happen if she ever got called to sit behind him in court during the week of the moon, which is important to note. Like, they try to avoid being in court during the week of the moon because that is when they are, like, literally the horniest. This would not end well. And
And
she
their
also,
wolves need to come out. And they're
yeah,
not going to have wolves in the courtroom.
yeah, we don't want that shit. So she spent a lot of time thinking about this man naked because, and then she kind of explains to him when they have conversations occasionally that she grew up in a human neighborhood and that's why she didn't celebrate the holiday that much. She is proud of what she is, but she's quiet about it. And he responds back to her that she needs to really get on the guest list of an actual celebration and she doesn't need to be quiet anymore. So she asks him why he calls her a rabbit because that is his nickname for her throughout this is he just calls her rabbit. And he says it's because she smells like prey good enough to eat. So we fast forward another year and they're arguing back and forth about something court related. And in the middle of the argument, she just blurts out that maybe they just need to fuck and get it out of their system. I mean, they've been like at this for a couple years, so it makes sense that, that's something. But, which when you argue that much, be some underlying sexual tension there. And you kind of need to release that. Though, not really a good idea to like shit where you eat. So, like, fucking people you work with, not a great idea. He is more concerned about her being ready for trial. And if he fucks her,
Well, and he
she
kind of gives
won't
her a
be.
hard time about it because he's like, you act like you're the one who came up with this idea.
Yeah.
And she's confused, but she recognizes that, yeah, they need to prepare for trial and just puts it off.
Yeah, because, if he fucks her, she's not going to be able to get everything ready for court and she needs to be able to get it done and fast. So when she gets home, she finally checks her mail after like
Well,
not checking it
the
for a while.
landlord calls her and says your mailbox is overflowing because she has a PO box that she uses. She doesn't use the mailbox in her apartment building. So it's full of junk mail. She doesn't think about it, but it's been like forever just piling up with junk mail. And so
She finds that there's an invitation to
to last
Lupercalia.
year's Lupercalia celebration from him.
Yep.
And
It hits
he's
her that
like,
Grayson
and
yeah, he had invited her because she didn't have holiday plans and it's basically just a giant fuck fest. And she also
and
just recently propositioned him.
right. And
So,
she's like, he'd at least had the grace and professionalism to attempt to fuck her outside the workplace first. And he'd even sent her a fancy invitation in which to do so. And you propositioned him right there in his office, which
yeah.
again, that exact thing is that tense situation is all fucked up. Just
So then another year passes by and she's working late. Trust me, I'm over. It's a high overview. She's working late, but she's not too sad about it because late nights mean she gets to go to certain meetings held at fancy hotels, which, I mean, who
and
doesn't
he's
want
been
that?
including her in these meetings, and
Mhm.
that's a big deal
Yep.
because
And
she's had to work from the bottom and scrape her way into these meetings. And
And finally, the biggest trial she's ever assisted on is like over, and the smell of Grayson is just driving her fucking mad, and she just keeps thinking about his cock. This part I had to reread a couple of times because they kept saying car, which is they're talking
An
about an
elevator.
elevator.
Yeah.
But then they would say elevator. I just had to reread because I'm like, why are they all in a car
Interchangeable.
together?
I know.
It is what it is. So they're in an elevator together. He asks if she has any plans for the night. He got himself a room at this hotel that the meeting is taking place at, and he asks her if she's ever stayed there before. And this woman freezes, and her throat dries out, and her words are not fucking working. He propositions her, saying that she can leave and he can see her on Tuesday, or she can go upstairs with him and get it over with, and even pretend she thought of it
How
first.
romantic.
And she just says, let's get it over with. How can a girl resist a romantic proposition like that?
I think my dentist said that the last time I got a root canal.
Yep. So he pulls her in to him and kisses her and tells her to tell him what she wants and he will
Which in
give it to
all of
her.
her fantasies about him, she never had him kissing her. So this is like, whoa.
Yep. Yep. He wants her to tell him what she wants and he will give it to her. And that she can spend the next few days in a luxury hotel while he fucks her until she can't walk. He can smell how much she wants him every single month, so they need to stop playing games, or she can just leave. Surprise! She goes with him. Who saw that coming? Not me. Just kidding. Then he dirty talks to her while she calls him an asshole while he's eating her out, and then they fuck. And he is huge and says that she was made for his cock. She says that he feels so good and then says, I hate you so much. I want you to rearrange my fucking guts with your big cock. I want your knot. Please give it to me. And all she wanted was for him to bite her and seal her with his knot. But instead, he brought her hands to his knot and told her to milk it and that he was going to fill her up. You know,
Because he
wow.
doesn't do that with.
No, he doesn't. After sex, they talk for a little bit. He compliments her on how good she's done and that she is passionate and extremely talented and would have done really well in the DA's office. And she asks him why he chose to practice law. And he just says that he's always been really good at arguing with people. And then they bang again. And she's disappointed that he won't knot her. And he just like straight up refuses. And he says that it's something that they'll both regret. And he does not do that with new partners. So when the full moon approaches again, she decides to take time off of work. She doesn't want to basically just be horny as fuck with him around work. Makes sense. And he checks in on her and she decides to video call him. And a little boy answers the phone.
Well, she doesn't just take time off work. She decides to go fuck someone else for the full moon because he's not going to give her what she wants. And she's not going to assume that's going to happen again because he made it very clear that this was when they go back to work, everything goes back to normal thing. And when they went back to work, he was business as usual. So she was like, fuck this shit. So when the next full moon came around, she took time off and lined up another man to fuck her through it.
Sounds great. So he does call her to check in on her to see how she's feeling because she was off for the week. A little boy answers the phone and she's taken a little bit of aback and has a tiny conversation with Grayson. And I mean, like, very, very brief because the phone gets dropped. And Grayson does call her back later on and apologizes. We do learn this little boy is not his son, it's his nephew. And that while he likes other people's kids, he's allergic to the thought of his own. We also learn he has 5 brothers. He says that he just wanted to make sure she's feeling better and that the turn didn't take too much out of her and that maybe next month they can make plans. She agrees that this would be really nice. So they do. They make plans to spend the full moon together at his apartment and then they fuck and he gets possessive, saying that she is his and that there won't be another wolf that can get close to her, asking if he should just bite her now, asking if she's going to take his not like a good little bitch. And she says no. She is a wolf, not his bitch. And that she'll bite him back and he needs to work for it. He finds this very amusing and then just fucks her super hard. It's a lot of just fucking.
But I don't like how they talk about it because it's always in the past and kind of hazy.
Well, this
It's
is
weird.
currently in the past.
But even in the chapters,
Well,
she
so
like
it's
starts
it's
in,
it's
oh,
weird
this is what happened
because
the other day kind of
it
thing.
sometimes goes like it changes tense like past
All
and
the
present all
time.
the
It's
time
weird.
in the past chapters. So yeah,
It's funky
it
and it's
is.
hard to read.
Yeah, so they talk about family after they're done fucking, and she just asks him what it was like coming from a family like his. He says that it can be rough, but most of the time it's fine. He then asks if she wants to go with him for the turn. He has a cabin that's super nice and quiet, and she agrees because it's gonna spoil her for like having to change in the city and it being loud where the cabin's so nice and quiet. So they go to the cabin and they have shifted sex and he went back to treating her like an asshole after they get back to work. They keep sleeping together, but Vanessa always wakes up to an empty bed. He is an early riser, and she just kind of wishes they could kind of snuggle in the morning. He's not into that for the record. And she's just sitting there looking at a video of, yes.
So this section, I know we're talking about this so many times, but this section was so confusing. I had to reread it like four times
So much of this got confusing that I just powered through it.
because we had a point where she was like, I'm going to make him chase me. I'm going to hook up with another man. He's not guaranteed to be my full moon partner. And then the next chapter, she's sleeping. She's waking up, and we're learning that
They have a
they spend all
very
this time
toxic back and
together.
forth relationship, and
But
I
the
don't think she
disjointed
can.
time jump with no explanation was so weird.
Yeah.
And with nothing in between, and we had no idea how we got from one to the other. I think I was like, yeah, I even like made notes about it, like what the fuck is happening?
Uh
Like,
huh.
is a chapter missing?
Yeah. Trust me. Those complaints
Because
too.
even with the
Because
disjointed of the rest of it,
trying
it
to
still felt like a
timeline this
chapter
was
was
the
missing with
biggest
this.
pain in the fucking ass. So she is sitting there in his apartment looking at videos of Bora Bora. And, she kind of asks if they could go. He's overdue for a vacation, but he's kind of an ass about them both going, saying that if they're gone for 2 weeks, she's going to need to spend this next 6 months catching up on work. He's an asshole, by the way. So then they're at a coffee shop in Cambric Creek, and Grayson orders two different drinks because she says, she hadn't looked at the menu. She doesn't really know what she wants. And she tells him, she's like, I'm not going to be able to drink all of that. And he says that he ordered it for her because she didn't know what she wanted and to just calm the fuck down. And I'm like, excuse me, sir. Excuse me. They're currently on their way to spend the day with his family. And she meets with his parents and all his brothers. And it's, a nice little meeting and they're all having a little bit fun. And when they leave, he asks her if she's staying the night or leaving. And she asks him what he wants her to do. And he says that it doesn't make a difference to me, but if you're going to stay, you can jerk me off so I can get to sleep. And I'm like, excuse me. This is a toxic ass fucking relationship. But she
Over
does.
multiple years.
Yeah, but she does. She stays. So she's going to stay, but he really just wants the night to be about him. And that if she really wants him to eat her out, she's going to need to be quick about it because he's tired. And I'm like, sir. So another year goes by, and she's just hardcore fucking pining after this toxic ass stupid man. She doesn't want to spend the full moon with anybody else ever. And then we have her blowing him, and she's always mouthy, but he makes a comment to her about how can someone have such a smart fucking mouth and still be so bad at sucking cock? Was like, what the fuck? I would have bit his dick right
Well,
fucking
she openly
off.
admits she's really bad at it.
I know, but still, you don't. But he just wants her to keep going, and he loves her worthless, terrible mouth. This man is god fucking awful. And we get a little snippet of last year's Lupercalia celebration, and that she had seen two girls sucking his cock. And he says that he didn't know where she had gotten off to, and the guests looked lonely, and he didn't want to be a bad host. Excuse me. What? And she's ready to fucking leave and not be a third wheel, but he tells her not to be stupid. That the girls were bored and she just wasn't around, and two mouths are better than one. And he grabs
So
her
fucking
and they make
toxic.
out while the girls are blowing him. And she tells him to finish in her mouth because he's like, where do you want me to finish? She goes, my mouth. And so he does. And then they fuck again. And we learn that when he's being a dick, she goes out and fucks dudes and purposely wears their cum into work to make him mad because he can smell that on. I know. It's
It was
wild.
all just
They are
gross.
awful to each other. And he does not like this.
And not in a fun way. It was just
No.
gross.
And he doesn't like this. And he just says, you belong to me. Don't forget it, rabbit. Okay, sir, you got blown by two ladies. I don't understand how you guys own each other. This is a wild experience. So another year goes by, and Vanessa feels like utter fucking shit. She finds out she's pregnant. She not thrilled because she has a roadmap and babies are not on that roadmap.
She
So
never
she,
wanted to have kids. She knows
no,
he never wanted to have kids.
no. So she's going to go to a clinic because she knows that Grayson also doesn't want kids. And we learned that she in these years has spent so much time with his family. They've gotten to know each other, but not super deep because neither one of them let each other in much. This is a terrible relationship, guys. If you're in something like this, run away, please. This
Run,
is so
run, rabbit.
fuck. Several days pass and Grayson hasn't gone into work. So she goes to his house and everything in his house is super blacked out and he's in bed and the house is set to basically near Arctic, and she asks him if there's anything that he needs. And he says, no, my brother's on the way. And he asks her how her trip was. This bitch had told him that she was going to visit her family, but that is not what she did. She had gone to the clinic. But she decides now is really not the time for the truth, but she decides to stay and look after him. Rumors have started around the office. And every time that she's in a room, rumors about them, by the way, every time she's in a room, people like hush up. But she kind of decided she doesn't really give a shit. She didn't care much of what anyone thought until one day when she stepped onto an elevator going up to the executive floor when two men in the elevator had clearly been talking about her before she even got on. And one man is even like sneering at her. This guy is Brock. And Grayson doesn't like this dude at all. Vanessa also does not like him, and Vanessa tells him about the sneering in the elevator, and he says not to worry about it. If it matters, if he says, "Oh my God, I can't English today." Vanessa does say not to tell him not to worry about it. She doesn't. She's like, "Don't worry about it. It's
But
fine."
because he
And
said he was gonna do something about it, like he was
yeah,
gonna
and
take
he
care
says
of
that
it.
it matters if he says it matters, and if she wants him punished, he will be. Dun, dun, dun. Then it comes to a court day, and it's not great because it's the week of the moon, and she has to take Wolfsbane in order to get through the heat.
And he's pissed because their court is not supposed to do this, and he's gonna take care of it.
Yeah, her and Grayson get
But
into a super argument, and once again, he says asshole things to her.
well, she doesn't want
Surprise!
him to clean up her messes and like pave the way for her because she is an adult woman who can do things on her own, and
I
she
feel
doesn't
like that's
need him
debatable.
to flash his dad's name around and make things happen
I feel like
for
her
her.
being an adult is debatable, but
Oh,
okay.
absolutely. I'm just her
Yeah.
thought.
But he's an asshole to her, but she still goes to meet him at the cabin after court anyways. And she got to the cabin early and she could just feel eyes on her and moves quickly to the cabin, but the cabin door is locked. Oh shit, that's not great. And the keys for this cabin, she remembers, like he had thrown them into the backseat of the truck, and the truck is still parked at the cabin, just a little bit further away. So she runs. And all of a sudden, a beast is in pursuit of her. She could smell him, but she like kept running. And then she gets tackled to the ground. Of course, it was Grayson in his wolf form. And I hated this part.
I thought you might.
And he starts licking her, and then he mounts her and fucks her while he's in wolf form and she's in human form. Not my thing, guys.
She learned that it was her thing though, and she didn't know until
Yep.
then. So
Then
now
we
she's
see.
been like
Ugh.
having dreams about it
Yep.
and thinking about it and wanting to do it again. And he's been teasing her about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we get 4 months before the event, and she's concerned about people finding out about them. Grayson isn't worried because he just assumes people already know about them, but says that they can go into HR and declare themselves on Monday just to cover their ass. And, she thinks about it and she just agrees that it's fine. It's not necessary to get HR involved and that they don't have that sort of relationship.
Because in the office, he kind of treats her like trash
He
and
treats her like
doesn't
shit.
treat her like they're in a relationship. And they only have these moments during like the full moon. And during the other times, he's still fucking other people. So clearly, I don't mean anything to him in reality. What's the
Yeah.
point?
Yeah. So she says that they don't have that sort of relationship. This sentence was a mistake. And all of a sudden, just something is wrong. She didn't realize something was wrong because, they're both busy, work is crazy, and literally, He blocks out 15 minutes worth of time in his schedule for them
to have their full moon session.
One sign should have been the apartment. He said he was having work done on his house, so they were spending the full moon at the apartment. What he was doing was a professional deep clean of his house, which is not great because that's getting rid of her scent in that house. And then the whole scheduling thing was also another sign that things are not going well. Then he tells her he is no longer affiliated with the firm.
He's having them buy him out.
Yeah, he's going to be chief internal counsel for the Werewolf Defense League. Turns out he quit the day she said that she didn't want to go to HR. She basically hurt his man feelings when she said that they didn't have that kind of relationship. And he asks her, "Isn't this what you wanted?" Bitch. After he left, all of the rumors about them had started to fade till he went on vacation and pictures of him were being shared with a woman, and she raged. She raged fucking hard. And this woman that he went on vacation with looked like her, which is crazy and psychotic. After her rage fit, she decides she is not giving up that easily. Lady. Ugh. And if he thought that she would give up this easily, he could literally just go fuck himself. All she wants is for him to chase her again. This part, by the way, I got confused in, so just bear fucking with me. She decided to talk with Grayson's dad to do work for the WDL, the werewolf, whatever he's doing. And she has a good talk with him. And then Jack tells her about Grayson's mom. The way that the sentence went, I thought that Jack was Grayson's dad because it just says he tells her about Grayson's mom and that she had been part of a pack. And when they had met, she was already engaged and she hasn't spoken or seen her family since the night she left. I got confused because I'm like, wait, if she went with Jack, because Jack is telling the story, Jack is not his dad. But if his mom left with him, I got confused.
Oh, I thought it was the dad telling the story.
It said Jack told her about the mom.
Jack is the father.
Jack's his brother.
No, Jack's son is the brother.
But she calls Jackson Jack a lot.
No, she calls the father Jack.
Oh my God. So I got confused anyways. I was like, I don't know what the fuck is happening.
I was like, what? Yeah, no.
Oh God. Their names are too similar. I can't do that.
Well, it's Jack and Jack's son.
Oh, good Lord. I hate it. This whole section like fucked me up. I had no idea what was going on. But apparently Grayson heard about this little meeting and then texted her and invited her to dinner. And they have some conversation.
So it's very clear the wording that the father manipulated him to set the meeting.
He, they have some conversation about her doing pro bono work, and she asks him how he's settling into his new position, and he admits that he's just exhausted, and they just go back and forth about work things. And then she asks she's like, how did we get here? And asks him how she is supposed to know what he wants when they don't talk about things. They drink at dinner, they get to talking about the party this year, and Grayson asks if she's ready to run. She responds with, "Of course. If I have a party to go to, that is. I wonder who might catch me this year. It's a wide open field. And you know what they say after the ceremony? The chase is the fun part." So now we're back to Lupercalia and back to where we began. Trap, which is Grayson's brother, tells her that he didn't expect her to be there, but he's so glad to see her. She's good for him and that he hopes that he's good for her. Assuming he's talking about Grayson, and there we go. And the ritual begins. Luperci priest, I'm going to just say that's what it is, are anointing blood and milk and oil at the altar. They say thanks to the mother who nourished them and paid homage to the first wolves who founded an empire and then did a ceremonial chant. And the fact that this year's ceremony was taking place so close to the full moon was so fabulous. And she is so fucking ready for the chase. A human is there because these humans want to get fucked by wolves. Come on. That is like their dream here. She asks what they need to do. And Vanessa explains that you have to run. And if you don't run, you'll be taken as an easy prize. And it's not bad if you don't care who catches you. And it's off to the fucking races. Vanessa is running. And then she feels a little bit of leather across the back of her thighs. Of course, the man who catches her, she's hoping will be him. She just says him. We know it's Grayson. She fucking wants Grayson, but it's not. And she decided that this one's dick did possess what she wanted. So she twisted out of his arms and makes a fucking break for it. And so then she thought about what would happen if Trap is the one who caught her. Fucking wild, by the way. I was like, how did we go for wanting Grace? It's fine. Don't worry about it. He smells similar to Grayson. So, she could get confused and nothing realistically could be held against them because of the night. And then she starts imagining his body over her and him fucking her. So now she's thinking about Trap fucking her. And I'm like, girl, you've been Grayson, and now you just want his brother. But he would be a satisfying fuck, but, the night would eventually end. And he is too bright and sunny for her liking. And then she sees Grayson and she fucking books it. And she is running through the forest and he is hot on her trail along with like 3 other dudes. Like these people are chasing this bitch. And she can hear them like running through the woods like with the crackling and she's thinking, oh, fuck, shit. Grayson might not even be the one who ends up catching me with all these people. But then she is caught. This man had been moving silently through the woods, keeping pace with her. And he just says, "It looks like you didn't run fast enough, Rabbit." And he asks her if this is what she wants. And then he fucks her. And they talk about the man she had touched the cock of inside. And, you know, she asked if he liked fucking the girl he took on vacation. Then he face fucks her to show that guy what she looks
How
like choking
horrible
on a
she
cock.
is.
Yeah, he just wants to show the guy what she looks like choking on a cock. And then she's on her back and he asks her who she belongs to. And she says, "You. I've always belonged to you." And Grayson responds, "You belong to me." And then he fucks her, pops his knot in her, and fills her. And then he bites her. He has
claims her,
never
finally claims her.
claimed her before, but now he did, and it meant so much. And he says, "Just in case you forget again, now they all know." And then he orders someone to clean her with their tongue.
Blows my fucking mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am going to do the ultimate show of ownership over this girl, but then I'm going to have this other guy
Clean
come
you.
in and touch her sexually.
It's so wild. They're so terrible for each other.
I mean, cool if that's what you're into, like, but this was just weird vibes.
Yeah.
Just weird vibes.
Yep. So then they move into one of the master bedrooms, and Grayson tells her that Jackson is going to be mayor and that things are going to change. No more parties are going to be able to happen, and he's going to have to keep his nose clean and do the whole suburban family thing. She tells him that he doesn't need to take the bench because they're going to basically, once his brother becomes mayor, they're going to make him want to like take a judgeship position. But she's saying that he doesn't need to take the bench and basically starts creating like a 5-year plan for them. And he asks her if she's planning on sticking around for that long. And she snaps back with, "Are you planning on marrying me?" He asks her if she could hack it. And then she asks him if he is going to get tired of her if he's not chasing. And he just says that he's tired of running and that she can run, but it doesn't matter because you belong to me. And that's it. That's the book. I tried so hard to make some semblance of sense in some of this. It was very disjointed for me. And trying to read it, I stopped reading it like 6 times to take a break.
Yeah,
and
I took
step
lots
away.
of breaks from a 200 something page book. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. So, who was your favorite character? I can tell you mine. Not a single person.
Didn't think that was an option.
Well,
I was getting.
It's our podcast. We
Hold
just
on,
add and do shit all the time.
Wait a second, I'm getting one. Hold on.
Okay. Hold, please.
My favorite was Lowell, the brother that we never met in this
so-
book. We met him in the other book, but we never met him in this book because he was too crazed. And
Yeah, I didn't mention Lowell a lot,
That's okay.
Lowell at all, but he seemed like a fun time.
he is a fun time. So
I bet. I didn't like anybody, so. The moon. for making everyone fuck.
Who is your least favorite?
Literally hated 90% of the characters in this book. Grayson and Vanessa can get fucked. And they do, but I don't like them. Grayson is the worst, and Vanessa is also the worst.
Yeah, probably Vanessa was my least,
I know that it did
with
like,
Grayson as a close second.
and it's funny because it's not like we were not warned about how terrible this relationship and these people were. I just still
Yeah,
hated them.
but I thought it was gonna be like fun toxic, like
No,
fun book
this was
toxic, not
not fun
like
toxic at all.
it's just
Oh
gross.
man. Yeah, so that was great. So Amazon gives us a 4.1 and Goodreads gives us a
I don't even want to
3.6.
ask. What did you rate it? I'm afraid to ask.
Me?
Yeah,
Between a 2 and a 2.5.
that's me too.
I
I
just
warred so hard whether it was a 2 or a 2.5 for me.
I think I might just give it a 2.5. It
I think
was
well, because I think I was trying to be nice because I like the world in theory, but like we didn't get that much world in this one, so it might
no.
even just be a 2.
Yeah, it was I shouldn't have to
Yeah, I
struggle
think it's
so
gonna be a
much.
2.
Okay. I think I'm gonna go with a 2 as well. And honestly, if these are for you guys, that's fine. This was not a book for us. This was just not something we enjoyed. It was hard for me to get through, and I can push my way through. Fuck, I read Bagged by the Groceries, okay? If
Hmm.
anything, that was a wild book. I don't know. I literally hated both the main characters in this book. And I hate being so negative about a book because normally we're not. At least we read it. If this is for you, great, go read it. I do like some of her other books. It's
I
just,
love the Cambric Creek world itself.
it's a
I
great
feel like the
world.
writing style just might not be for me. I've tried. I gave it quite a try because this is like my 6th book that I've read of hers.
And that's the thing is some authors will build worlds and some of them just the writing is not for
I
us.
think that's
And
why I just keep coming back because it's like I really want that world.
mm,
But it's not that the writing necessarily is bad. It's just the style choice is not for me.
yeah.
I mean,
But
yeah, I found some errors in this
if
one,
this is
but
your style choice of writing, then have at it. Enjoy the books. We're not just our opinion. And our opinions only matter to us. Please don't.
what is your cucumber
I
rating?
don't even know. Let me think about it. You go first.
I'm gonna rate this a 3, only because it should be higher. I will note that it should be higher because the amount of scenes and the amount of different things, but it was so disjointed and weirdly back and forth and poorly written of the scenes that it's bringing it down to a 3 for me.
I'm probably gonna go with like a 4. I get same thing. And then of
Yeah.
course I had my least favorite thing ever, but that's well
Yeah.
actually I have a lot of least favorite things.
I know you do.
I don't know, shifted sex though, like having one shifted and one human. I don't know why it treads too close to some and it's weird because like I'll read alien romance and other things, but I don't know what it
Right.
is about that.
Right. What's the difference between that and a
I don't
minotaur and
know.
human? I
My
don't know.
brain, something about a
Sees it
werewolf
as taboo and
fucking a human.
can't handle it.
I don't know why. It just
I
my
was say I
brain
don't have that hang up necessarily because of all the rest of the things we read, but
fucking I don't know. I still don't like knives and guns. I don't know. And we've read a lot of that. So
yeah.
it's just something. I mean, again, if that is for you, perfect. Read the book. Fabulous. I love that for you. It's just not for us. That's all. So now survivability. How would you
Yes.
do?
Now, I feel like I would be great because I would have given this man no time of day and I would have ignored him or gotten a new job probably 6 years ago.
Yeah, I would have walked out. I think I would have been fine. But if we followed the path that
Would have
she
had a great
went,
time at that party.
except for the running.
I wouldn't have ran. I would have been one of the ones in the beginning that just was like the easy catch with all the men. Yeah.
Same.
And I
Yeah.
still having a great time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I mean, I would think I
who's
would
really
survive
the
as
winner here?
that's true. You're a vagina.
Yeah.
I think I would survive too. Again, I would do the same thing. I would piece the fuck out, be like, bitch, we're not doing this shit today.
Yeah.
I've had enough toxic men in my life. I don't need to add another.
Oh
Oh
my
boy.
goodness. So yeah, that was our last special for April. May, we are
Going hunting, baby.
changing our hunting rabbits and we're just hunting in general.
Yeah. I'm
We're going
excited.
hunting for May. Yes, me too.
And it is Ariel, our half of our fearless leader team here, of the two of us, because there's only two. It's her birthday month. So let me be the first to tell you because it will be Ariel's birthday month, and because we all know that she would love me to suffer, and that's the best. What better gift than letting me suffer?
That's not true. That's not true.
Okay.
I don't want you to suffer.
Really? Have you seen some of the books that you've picked and that we've had to read?
Okay, listen.
Purposely making me suffer? No.
Listen, I have had you grown. You have metamorphosized as a reader this past year. Just look at how far you have come.
She just wants me dead inside all the
Look at
time.
our
So
Emerald Bruises episode where you fought for Henry's right to brutally kill and maim 3 men because they touched what was his, and because you said that was
so
in
okay.
his right. So look at how far you have come.
She's wanted to break me to that point. That's the point. So to further continue this, I will be doing every single episode in May, specials included. So everything is mine. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books that we'll be reading in May are all me, which is our next 7 recordings.
Yikes.
So if you want to see when I break, join us for the fun.
So if you're wondering why she's crying in June,
if I'm crying midway through May, that's why. It's fine, guys.
If all of a sudden there's a switch and
I think the only time that we would change me not doing it is I believe you still want to do Sapphire Scars.
Yes,
correct?
I'll do that one.
So,
yeah, just to keep the continuity.
So if that happens during the month of May, then you will hear Ariel's voice during May. Other than that, everything else is mine. And I might cry, and who knows? But then June is gonna give us gifts. It's gonna give us happy, grumpy
Crystal
sunshine.
gets to pick all the specials for June. So
and I've already picked one.
Yep.
So
it's to cheer her up and give her some happy sunshine to get her over the May.
Originally, it was just because we were gonna do stuff for her birthday month, and then we were just gonna do my half birthday. Because actually in July,
her birthday was taken up by us being
doing
petty.
Snowden.
So I was originally going to pick the specials for May, and she was going to pick the specials for June, but then we changed it all up. So
here we are. So yeah, join us for some psychoticness that's going to happen in May.
Make sure that you keep reading
and keep it smutty.